Hello, everyone. This is Steve Risser from Sports Talk with RKJ, your host of Sports Talk with RKJ, with my co-host Justin Donofrio. And today we're going to have our college football. Today we're going to do our college football preview, and we're going to start with the defending national champions, the Clemson Tigers. I mean, last year an outstanding year, 15-0. Trevor Lawrence looks like he's going to be the Heisman Trophy winner this year. He had a great year last year. I mean, offensively, they returned their running back. Ross and Kane are back at receiver. They got Trevor Lawrence. The question mark, though, for Clemson is going to be is their defense, because they lost Dexter Lawrence, they lost Cleveland Ferrell, and they lost Christian Wilkins. They lost three big members of that defensive line. So the big question mark coming into the season for Clemson is going to be that defense. And Justin, do you think that defense could be as good as it was last year, or do you think it's going to take a little bit of a drop off?
I need to take a little bit of a drop off, but I think they're still going to be good. They have about 3 or 4 senior defensive linemen coming back. That got a lot of time in mop-up duty last year, so they've got some experience. They got a bunch of starting linemen coming back. I think all their starting linemen are seniors too that have got plenty of time over the years. They're going to be great again. They're in a different class than the rest of the ACC. You know, the only game I'm worried about is them is going to Syracuse week 3. College game day is going to be there, probably the biggest game in Syracuse football history. Syracuse knocked them off 2 years ago. If Syracuse gets by that game, you know, I think they should be able to beat everybody else. That's going to be their toughest game, I think, all season. Maybe Texas A&M at home week 2, but they're definitely in different classes. They're going to be good. Lawrence and Ross are both sophomores, and Trevor Lawrence is just – I thought he was going to struggle into that national championship game, but he was unbelievable. You know who he looks like? The guy from I was thinking about this morning from remember the Titans, Sunshine. I forget his name.
Oh yeah, he does definitely look like Sunshine.
Yeah.
He definitely looks like Sunshine.
Before they made him cut his hair, but yeah, I think Clemson. They're probably my pick to win it all again this year, like everybody else.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're look at the 2 of their first 3 games are probably their toughest games, because you remember last year those were their 2 toughest games last year. Even though Kelly Bryant started, but did Kelly Bryant start the Syracuse game?
No, that was a week right. He transferred out. He announced he was transferring out a couple of days before.
Oh, wasn't Trevor Lawrence hurt or something?
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence was hurt. He was their 3rd string guy.
Okay, all right. So because last year when they played at A&M, Kelly Bryant started, and A&M almost beat them. And then when they play, obviously that Syracuse game, they pulled that one out too. Yeah. But that's probably their 2 toughest games right there. 2 of their first 3 games of the year, they play A&M at home, and then they even though they'll probably beat A&M by a couple scores, and they have that big game at Syracuse. But look at we'll go back to their defense. Who are some of the players on that defense that will make them close to as good as they were last year?
That D lineman, I can't remember his name. They have a couple guys up front that are gonna be good. But I can't remember this guy's name. But they have guys. Edward James, I think up front gonna be good. They have some pieces up front that. As seniors, I think they're going to be able that played Moppo duty that they're going to have, and they're going to be good. Yeah,
so that's going to be the big. That's the thing which is going to keep Clemson from being an all-time team to a great team. They're still going to be outstanding, but that defense, they did lose 3 big starters, but still, they should definitely be the favorite to win it all.
Yeah, I have them being the favorite to win it. Yeah, I definitely have the favorite to win. They're definitely on top of the world, or in a different class than the rest of the ACC right now.
Yes. So we'll go on to Alabama, that was the team that lost to Clemson in the national championship game, but they also returned their starting quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, who right now is projected to be the number 1 pick in the draft. And you look at this team too. They brought Judy back. They did lose Harris, and they did lose Josh Jacobs in the run game. But defensively, they got a pretty good linebacker. We all know Nick Saban's defenses are really good. And this should also be a team that should play Clemson in the national championship game.
Yeah, we'll probably see this for the 4th straight year in a row, Alabama-Clemson. We'll probably see Alabama-Clemson for the 4th straight season, most likely. Tua's back. Hopefully this year he can stay healthy. Hopefully that ankle now is 100%. And if anything does happen, right now his backup is his little brother. So there's another Tua Tagovailoa in Tuscaloosa. I don't know if he's as good as Tua, but I guess we may see some mop-up duty from him. But it's Alabama. You know they're going to be good every single season. They just reload and reload and reload. And it's going to be the same thing for them. Jerry Jeudy is back at wide receiver too, which is big. He'll be a top pick this draft, but Alabama too. I think they may run away with the West again. Maybe they'll have a couple close games this year, but again, they're going to be nasty again.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their schedule, their toughest game their toughest game is going to be going to Texas A&M on the 12th. They do play LSU, but since Ed Orgeron's been there, LSU has only scored a grand total of 10 points in 3 games. Yep. And also they do go to Auburn, but Auburn, Jared Stidham's not back either. So really their toughest test is going to be, until the SEC championship game where they're probably going to play Georgia, their toughest test is going to be at Texas A&M. But they should still be able to win that game by a couple scores. But until Georgia, that's probably going to be their toughest test.
Probably, yeah, because I do like Texas A&M this year. They have a lot of juniors. They got a lot of juniors this year and a couple sophomores. I like Jimbo Fisher, the coach. Until LSU can get an offense, they have no shot to beat Alabama, or until Nick Saban retires, they have absolutely no shot to beat Alabama, home or away. So, yeah, Alabama, I think, till Auburn. I think maybe because of the last week, too, Auburn's going to figure everything out. Big year for Gus Malzahn. He really needs this year to stay off the hot seat. So maybe Auburn, could be a tough game depending on how Auburn's season goes. Yeah,
but the problem is they have like a redshirt freshman starting at quarterback.
Joey Gatewood.
Yeah, because they lose Jarrett Stidham, so it's gonna be tough for me to see Auburn even compete. Yes, they've beaten Alabama a couple times, but it's gonna be very, very tough for me to see them beating Alabama. Even though that one year where they did beat Alabama, they weren't really expected to do much, and they did. But I just can't see Auburn beating Alabama this year.
Yeah.
We'll go on to Georgia, who returns another quarterback. The thing about this, the top 3 teams probably have the top 3 quarterbacks in the country. Trevor Lawrence in Clemson, Tua Tagovailoa in Alabama, and you got Jacob Fromm. I mean, you could argue Justin Herbert's better than Jacob Fromm. But yeah, top 4 I would now go top four quarterbacks in the country. But if you look at Georgia, I mean, Jacob Fromm's back. DeAndre Swift is back. They got a really good offensive line too. Their defense Georgia's defense is always pretty good as well. And they definitely look like they're going to be the favorite in the SEC East. Have a tough game, though, with Notre Dame on the 21st. We all know that Florida game on the 2nd is going to be huge. They go to Auburn. But this is also a team that wants revenge from what happened last year, losing that SEC title game to Alabama. And it looks like they're probably going to play Alabama in the SEC title game.
Yeah, it looks like they definitely will. They had Alabama beat last year. A couple of mistakes at the end of that game. Yeah, going to Auburn's tough, and then you got Texas A&M coming at home for Senior Day. That's going to be another tough one. I feel like Texas A&M's been pretty good this year. Notre Dame, I cannot wait for that game. That one could really decide maybe that 4th seed. If Notre Dame and Georgia, that could definitely be a tiebreaker game. That's going to be huge. I guess that's going to be CBS's Saturday night game. Alabama LSU will not this year, so that's going to be a huge, huge game. But Jacob Fromm returns, and I watched the QB1 Behind the Lights. He's one of those guys, too. Like, he's a great teammate, great all-around player, and I feel like he definitely wants to beat Alabama. He definitely seems like that guy that just drives for championships. I think he's going to hopefully lead them. I would love to see maybe Georgia Clemson, something different than Alabama Georgia, so I'm kind of rooting for maybe a Georgia.
You mean Alabama Clemson?
Yeah, I want to see like Georgia Clemson national championship this year. I want to see somebody different. Even though I don't want Clemson, but I think they'll still get in there. But yeah, they got 6 defensive guys come back, 6 offense. They reload, and Kirby Smart's got another great team in this SEC East.
We'll go to another team in the SEC East, and that's Florida, who had a really good year in Dan Mullen's first year, going 10-3, winning their bowl game over Michigan. They got the quarterback coming back in Felipe Franks. They got a really good corner, probably a corner who could be an All-American. I'm not sure what his name is, but a corner who could be an All-American. But what do you think Florida's chances are of overtaking Georgia in the SEC East?
I think it all depends on the quarterback play of Felipe Franks. 13 touchdowns to 6 or 7 interceptions last year. He needs to become a better passer, consistent passer. It's his job, and he's got to take the next step, because I think if he can play well, because their offense was the problem that last year, is they weren't very consistent in the passing game. They had a good running game. It's a passing game that hurt them. If they can get a consistent passing game and really get that play action to work, and if Franks can, keep the ball in his hands, Florida's going to be really, really good, and I think they'll get Georgia all they can handle being that neutral site game in Jacksonville. I think it's all on Felipe Franks. Can he do it? I think the way Dan Mullen's been able to develop quarterbacks, as we've seen with Dak Prescott at Mississippi State, I think he'll be able to. I think Florida definitely has a shot. I mean, Florida has a shot to beat Georgia, but I think next year, I think Georgia's too good this year, but I think it'll be a close one. So I think Florida will end up being second, but they'll finish second in the SEC East.
Florida's got a really good defense. Who are some players to look for in that defense?
Defensive-wise, you got the D lineman. Or who's that cornerback's name? I was trying.
Gardner or
Gardner. He's back on defense. They got a couple linemen as well. What's his Marlon Dunlap Jr. on D line. Justin Humphreys. They got some talent in D line, and of course secondary. They've been great on the secondary last couple of years. So I think they're definitely have a couple. A couple shutdown cornerbacks. So I think the defensive wise, they're always good, and they'll have another good year. I think defensively.
They should, and I mean, if they do, they could have a good chance of beating Georgia in the SEC East. It's gonna be interesting. That game on November 2nd is gonna be really big.
Yeah, that one's to decide the SEC East.
So we'll go back to the SEC West and we'll look at LSU, and it's always kind of the same story with LSU every year. They're good, but they can never beat Bama, and I think it's going to be the same story this year. They got a pretty good secondary, as they always do. They're known for having good players in the secondary. They're going to have a good defense. Joe Burrow is back, but in the Ed Orgeron era, they've scored a grand total of 10 points against Alabama, and this is why. When they had the opportunity, they probably should have hired Tom Herman. Ed Orgeron is good, but he's not as good as Tom Herman, especially in the offensive side of the ball. Oh, yeah. So that's why I think LSU. I just can't see LSU. I think they'll be they might finish second in the SEC West, but I can't see them beating Alabama.
Yeah, I think they could finish from anywhere to second to fourth, depending on what happens. Offensively, yeah, they had an interim finish up the final 8 games last year. I think they're going to be a little bit quicker this year. I think they're going to be a little bit more in the spread. Joe Burrow doesn't seem like a true spread quarterback guy, but we'll see how that works. He needs to take another step forward too. He was good last year. He wasn't great, and I felt like after what they did at Miami week 1, before we saw Miami kind of self-destruct after that, I thought LSU was to be. They were a good team last year, but I really thought, okay, this team's going to give Alabama a shot because beginning of the year, people thought, LSU, Miami is going to be battling right there for maybe, New Year's Six Bowl and all that.
And they played them and they lost 29-0.
Yeah, so, LSU's definitely going to be good again. They got Leonard Fournette's brother that one of their backups. But again, this is going to be another great team or good team. Defensively, great. Offensively, we got to see if this new offense maybe works for LSU because it's the offense that's been their kryptonite. Yeah,
it definitely seems that way. Going on to a team that had a good year in Jimbo Fisher's first year, and that's Texas A&M. And what do you expect from them this year? Do you think they could? I think they could finish second in the SEC West. Do you think they have any shot to challenge Alabama?
I think at home
because Mond is back.
Yeah, Kellen Mond's back. I think next year's. I wish they had Alabama at home next year because they have a ton of juniors. So I think next year they definitely will be. I think second. I think they're gonna handle. I think they'll give Alabama a game till halftime, and I think Alabama wears them down in the second half. And I think they just Tua throws for like 200 yards second half. He's got a big second half on him. But I do really like Texas A&M this year. I think they could definitely finish second. They have a tough final 2 games, though. They have to go to Georgia and LSU to finish the year. So that's 2 very, very tough ones. Kelmon's back, so I think, and he's going to get better this offseason. They also got to go to Clemson, which they gave all they can handle last year. I think they'll give a decent game. I think, they'll play Clemson tough, but I think Clemson will pull away at the end. But Texas A&M, yeah, I think they'll be good again this year.
We look at Auburn. They lost Jared Stidham. They do get Derek Brown back as a really good defensive tackle. Their biggest games, they host Georgia and they host Alabama, but they do go to LSU. And I think the quarterback play is going to hold them back. I think they'll be a good team, but it's going to hold them back from being a great team.
Yeah, and we're going to find out about this redshirt freshman a lot in week 1. Joey Gatewood going up against Oregon. I know Oregon D's never great, but that's going to be tough. You're not playing some small school in the Sun Belt. You're playing Oregon, and this could be a huge, huge game, especially for Oregon if they want to get in the playoffs, even for Auburn. So we're going to learn a lot about them. Offensively, I thought Auburn would be better last year. They were not great at times. And we thought Jared Sim was going to do better. Jared Sim going the year was like a top 5 pick. Everyone was saying, and he kind of did not have as great a year as everyone thought. And this is a huge year too for Gus Malzahn. So we'll see kind of how these players respond because Gus is on the hot seat right now. So we'll see how these guys respond to him.
Absolutely. And who is your sleeper in the SEC? Any team in the SEC, who is your sleeper? You can pick one in the SEC East and SEC West.
Okay. I think in the East, maybe it's tough in the East.
It's tough because, Kentucky lost Josh Allen and Benny Snell. You look at South Carolina, they lost Deebo Samuel. Mm-hmm. Vanderbilt, they have a good tight end and a good running back, but they lost Kyle Shermer. And Tennessee's still rebuilding.
Yeah, so I think, I would maybe – I don't think any of those four in the SEC East are going to win it. So I would so I'm just going to throw out there. I'll just go really Florida. I think because they're – I guess pick second. Maybe South Carolina will be decent. I think maybe South Carolina's got the best shot. I'll say that. I think they have the best shot.
Isn't Bentley returning as the quarterback?
Bentley returns. Much chance we know is not the greatest coach. And then the West, I'm gonna go with A&M. I think they were picked third or fourth in the SEC West. So I think getting Alabama at home, if they can maybe get Alabama at home, I don't think they will, but. They somehow can. I think they could definitely win the SEC West if they beat Alabama.
Is there a chance that Mississippi State? We know Ole Miss and Arkansas will be. How will Mississippi State with Joe Moorhead? I know they lost Nick Fitzgerald. Will they take a little bit of a step back this year?
Yeah, they will. They got Penn State trying to come in. Tommy Stevens, who Jim Moorhead coached, was the OC when he was at Penn State. Should be interesting. He was a backup all 3 or 4 years he was there, or 3 years he was there. So we'll see how he kind of does, because this is going to be a tough first job going to the SEC West. This is probably the toughest division in college football. So we'll see how he does. I think Mississippi State definitely could, but again, they're another team that, again, Alabama's just had their way. I think they also go to LSU. They have LSU at home. They go to Texas A&M, and they go to Auburn. I think it'll be too tough for them. They'll overcome. But I definitely could see Mississippi State. It'll be pretty. Yeah, it'll good to the show.
It'll be interesting there. So we'll go out to the Big Ten and we'll start with Michigan, who this has got to be the year for Jim Harbaugh. He gets Shea Patterson, even though they lose Rashawn Gary and Devin Bush, he does have Shea Patterson back, and Urban Meyer's out of the Big Ten. Dwayne Haskins went to the NFL. Justin Fields is there, the Georgia transfer, and they got Ohio State at home. I feel like this is the year Michigan is gotta be in the Big Ten championship game because Harbaugh's been there 4 years, and his kryptonite has been losing to Ohio State. It's also been losing to Michigan State at home too, but definitely his kryptonite has been losing to Ohio State because 2 out of the 4 years he's there, all he needed was one win against Ohio State to win the Big Ten East, and he hasn't been able to do it. This is the year Jim Harbaugh has got to get to the Big Ten championship game and probably the college football playoff. I'd say at least the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, it definitely is. They definitely need to, especially now they called out Urban Meyer and he was, talking about Urban Meyer. And the thing is too, you get Ohio State at home, Michigan State, and Notre Dame at home. You get all three. You only have to go to Penn State and Wisconsin.
And you look at Penn State and Wisconsin. Wisconsin doesn't have a quarterback, and Penn State lost McSorley and Sanders. So those are tough road games, but they're not. But the tougher games are at home. Yeah, the Notre Dame who they lost to last year, and Ohio State who they lost to last year.
Yeah. So those. So they definitely. This is definitely their year, and Jim Harbaugh has to. But I watch out for week 2. The Army Black Knights come to town with a triple option. They go to Wisconsin the next week, so they could be looking ahead with that triple option. We know what Army did. So I'm actually scared for that game. I think Army's going to be good. Army just finished, Army got a bunch of top 25 votes. So Army's going to be no slack this year to them. Shea Patterson back. They need him to take up. They need him to play even better this year. You lose Gary. You got it. Tyreek Black back, the Connecticut kid. I think this is Michigan's year. I really do. I'm picking them to take the East. I think they do get Ohio State this year. I don't know. We'll see by week. By the time they play Ohio State, what Ohio State has and all that. But I think this is their year. I think they definitely will get to the Big Ten championship game.
November 30th is a huge high noon. November 30th on Fox. That is a huge game between Ohio State and Michigan. So we'll talk about Ohio State. They obviously lose Dwayne Haskins, but they get Justin Fields. Urban Meyer now gone. Ryan Day in. J.K. Dobbins is back. Chase Young is back too, who stepped up a little bit last year for Ohio State. He's projected to be a top 10 pick. And you look at Ohio State's schedule. They got to go to. It's tough because they got to go to Nebraska, who's expected to be better, and then going to Michigan that last week of the season. Also play Wisconsin and and obviously they play Michigan State and Penn State because in their conference. What do you think of Ohio State this year? You probably, obviously we're both picking Michigan, but do you think? I think Ohio State will definitely finish second in the East.
Oh yeah, I think they're gonna finish second. I'm interested to see how Ryan Day does this because this is the first time he's ever been a head coach. He coached the 3 intern games last year. So I'm interested to see how he because he's taking over for one of the best in the game, Urban Meyer,
one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, so he's got big holes to fill here. But the thing about Ohio State every year is they lose that one game that they shouldn't. Last year beat down in Purdue,
and then Iowa the year before, and they got crushed in both those games too.
Yeah, and it's not even close. What game is that going to be?
And in 2015, that was Michigan State at home, and then 2016 it was Penn State at Penn State.
Yeah, so what?
And then in 2014 it was Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
what will be that game this year?
That game I could maybe see at Nebraska where they struggled this year at home. Northwestern, I think, is going to take a step back this year.
Yeah. I think Ohio State's at Nebraska.
Yes, they are at Nebraska. Yeah, they put them at home. They struggled. Maybe Wisconsin at home, depending. Maybe Jonathan Taylor in the rushing game could have a huge day. We know Ohio State's defense has struggled over the years. Maybe so I could see possibly those games that Ohio State better watch out, especially because I definitely maybe see Nebraska on the road because Michigan State comes in the next week. Big game right there for Ohio State and Michigan State. But Justin Fields coming in, this kid's very, very good. We saw him a little bit last year at Georgia. But it's the defense, I think, for this team that's got – if their defense can play well, this is going to be a very, very good team. They just need their defense to step up and just get a few sides. We saw last year in Maryland, they gave up 40 points. Maryland was terrible last year offensively. They gave up 40 to them. So the defense has got to step up, be a little bit better this year. They have 9 guys return on the defense side of the ball, so they should be better defensively. And if they are, they definitely could. They definitely do have a shot to beat Michigan. They definitely do.
Oh, absolutely. They beat them every year, so they definitely have a shot. Yeah. And they got a 5-star as a transfer with Justin Fields, and Ryan Day has been on the Ohio. He's not Urban Meyer, but he's been on the Ohio State coaching staff. So they're definitely good enough to win the Big Ten with Ryan Day.
Oh yeah, definitely. Ryan Day played. Chip Kelly's the old coordinator in college at New Hampshire, so maybe we see a little bit of Chip Kelly style, but I don't know. We'll find out.
We'll talk about Michigan State, whose quarterback returns for his senior year, right?
Yep, Brian Lewerke.
Yeah, and they'll have a really good defense. The problem here is they'll really tough schedule. Got to go to Ohio State and got to go to Michigan. Even though they've beaten Michigan twice in Michigan. Yeah. Twice in Michigan in the Jim Harbaugh era. I think this is a better Michigan team than it was those 2 years. Those were kind of 2 of their down years of that era because that was Harbaugh's first year, and they beat him in that crazy game.
Yeah, the
punt and those were 2 of the most fluky games too. They beat him in. There was that crazy game with the punt block, and then that game where Michigan turned the ball over 5 times.
Yeah.
So they have beaten them. They have beaten them twice there in the Jim Harbaugh era, but they also go to Ohio State. They also got to go to Wisconsin. Tough schedule, good defense. I'm thinking like an 8-4, 9-3 season for Michigan State.
Yeah, I'm going there too. I think the problem offensively, Lewerke was not. This is his 3rd year as a starter. Second or 3 years as a starter. He was not great at all last year. He took. They benched him a couple of times at the end of last year. Just had trouble just holding on to the ball last year. Defensively, this team's always great. Mark D'Antoni does a great job defensively wise. Last year, they had a hiccup in Arizona State. They get them this year at home, so that's a revenge game. Week 1, they had a scare against Utah State. So you could kind of see early on last year that this team was going to have problems, and they ended up having their problems. Offensively, though, they're going to be better, I feel like. I think Lewerke's going to be much better this year. I think Michigan does get them out. Michigan's going to beat them at home this year.
Yes, so we'll talk about Penn State, who lost their starting quarterback, Trace McSorley, and Miles Sanders. They got some guys on defense. They got a linebacker who's pretty good, got a defensive end who's pretty good, got some pretty good receivers with Hamler and Johnson. But the issue is going to be, because Tommy Stevens transfers, what are they going to get at the quarterback position? What are they going to get at the running back position? That's going to be the biggest issue for Penn State this year.
Yeah, because right now I think the starter going in is going to be Sean Clifford, whose career numbers, he's 5'7", 195 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I think the backup is Will Levis.
Will Levis, who played at Xavier.
So
yeah, We might see Will Levis.
Yeah, you may get to see a little bit of him, maybe a mop-up duty. So, yeah, that's where the problem is going to lie for Penn State this year. But James Franklin has done a great job after all those issues at Penn State. He's done a great job and really put this team back on the map in the Big Ten. We'll see how the running, who can step up. I don't know if they have announced it yet. They have Ricky Slade, I think, is a front runner right now. He had 6 touchdowns last year. And I think he's going to be only a sophomore too. So you're going to have 3 years of him probably. So we'll see how this Penn State team is. They got Michigan at home, but then the next week, but that's, it's going to be tough because they got in 3 weeks, they got at Michigan, or at Iowa, Michigan, at Michigan State. So
that's going to be 3 games. That's going to be a brutal stretch right there because they'll probably start like 5-0, but that's going to be a brutal stretch, those 3 games.
Yeah, because you got Buffalo, Pitt, Maryland to start out, Purdue, and then Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State. So that's where we're going to learn about Penn State's year. That's going to be Penn State's year in a nutshell, those 3 games.
Yes, I completely agree with you there. We'll move down to the West, and we'll start off with Nebraska, who yes, they were 4-8 in Scott Frost's first season, but they got high expectations this year. The media picked them to win the Big Ten West and go to the conference championship game. So, and they do have a quarterback coming back for a second year. Adrian Martinez is his name, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's coming back for his second year. What are your thoughts on Nebraska? Do you think they can win the Big Ten West?
I think they definitely can because they have Wisconsin at home and they got Iowa at home. So those are because for me it's Wisconsin and Iowa battling with Nebraska for that. Even though in Nebraska after that 0-5 start, the worst starts in 1942, 1945, either or, they went to Ohio State. They went to Ohio State and gave them all they could handle. They finished 4-8, but they finished off that they got much better at the end of the year. And I think they're going to take a huge step. And I think they do win the Big Ten West, with Martinez coming back. Yeah, and I think, they got 7 offensive guys coming back, 6 on the defensive end. Much better this year. I think they have a much better start. They got a revenge game, too, at Colorado, which they should have won last year. They choked that one away. So I think, Nebraska, I think we'll get the West. And Scott Frost taking a big step, getting Nebraska back on the map.
We look at Iowa. Nate Stanley returns. They got a really good defensive end. You probably know about pretty well. They got a really good defensive end too. I think Iowa definitely with Kirk Ferentz has a chance to win the Big Ten West. Last year they were 9-4 last year, 500 in league play, but they were 9-4 last year. But I think this Iowa team, they're right there with Wisconsin and Nebraska as one of the favorites to win the Big Ten West.
Yeah, I think they are. I think the DN's name is Chauncey Galston. I think his name is. Nathan Stanley's back. This team's always one of those old-fashioned. They're going to try to pound it.
Well coached.
Yes, Kirk Ferentz, yep. Longest tenure right now in college football. At 21 years it's going to be. So, crazy. Actually, he played at UConn, Kirk Ferentz. He's a linebacker. Wow.
Yeah, he's close with Belichick, too.
Yeah, so he's got some good coaching side. Nate Stanley's back. I'm worried, their top 2 tight ends that they love using are gone. Their top wide receiver from last year is gone. So that's what I worry about in the passing game. Having your starting quarterback's nice. Running games always solid at Iowa. They like to pound it between the tackles. But I think going to Nebraska and Wisconsin is going to hurt them, and I think that's why Nebraska finishes on top of Iowa. Yeah,
they got the 2 toughest games in their division on the road.
Yep.
So we look at Wisconsin. We know how great Jordan Taylor is, probably one of the best running backs in the country. The issue for them is, though, they got to go to Ohio State and Nebraska. They also got Michigan on that schedule too, so they got to play Michigan and Ohio State from the other division. So, and we all know the quarterback position is a major issue for Wisconsin. It was a major issue last year. So, do you think they will be improved from what they were last year, Wisconsin?
I think they will. I'm interested to see because it's a true freshman quarterback, a top 5 quarterback coming out of high school. Graham Martz is his name. Interested to see because I've never seen him play before. I think he's another game management Wisconsin likes to use. The thing is, is them as a passing game. Because you could put 8 in the box last year against Alex Hornibrook and just let Alex Hornibrook beat you. And he could not do that. And, Jonathan Taylor, they had to rely a lot on him. He's a great running back. They're going to need – it's going to be this true – and it's tough as a true freshman quarterback. What are we going to see from him? Is he going to, sink under pressure? Week 1, they go to South Florida. So in South Florida, they're going to be ready to play that game. South Florida is going to be a decent team.
That's a tough game right there.
Yeah, and it's a Friday nighter. Then they got Michigan coming week 3. So we're going to learn a lot early of how good Wisconsin's offense is going to be. I am interested in this true freshman quarterback. Taylor's back, which is huge. I think, if Taylor was not back, this team, I think, really, really struggles. They're going to be good again defensively as they got 6 guys return on defense side of the ball. But I think they'll finish 3rd in the Big Ten West division.
So outside of all the seven teams that we talked about, who is your sleeper in the Big Ten?
I think my sleeper, it definitely could be. I'm going to go with Purdue.
They got that good wide receiver.
Rondell Moore is only a sophomore. Their coach comes back after turning down the Louisville job where he's from and played at. So now they only have 4 starters coming back on that side of the ball. But
on defense, offensive side?
On the offensive side of the ball. But but they have 9 defensive guys coming back. And Rondell Moore, if you haven't seen him, one of the most explosive guys in college football. I think Purdue could definitely maybe sneak up in the West because it's especially so wide open. They got Nebraska at home. They got Wisconsin and Iowa on the road. They do have to go to Penn State in the East, but I think they definitely could have a shot to maybe get to the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, because the thing with the Big Ten West is you don't have teams like powers like Ohio State and Michigan that are clearly the top teams. I mean, you got Nebraska. Yeah, there's a lot of hype there, but still, they only won 4 games last year, and Wisconsin and Iowa didn't have great years last year either. So they were 500 in conference play. So yes, you can sneak up and win the Big Ten West. That's the difference between the Big Ten West and the Big Ten East. Yeah. You don't have the 2 powers there with Ohio State and Michigan. You could win. You could like Northwestern last year. You could sneak up on people and win the Big Ten West.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely what's going to happen. I think that definitely could happen because in the East, I don't really have a sleeper. It's Rutgers, Maryland, and Indiana. I don't think any of those 3 have a shot.
Not at all. We'll stay in the Midwest, and we'll talk about Notre Dame, who had an outstanding year last year. When undefeated throughout the regular season, then lost to Clemson in the college football playoff. Did lose Jerry Tillery, did lose Miles Boykin, but they do get Ian Book back. 2 very difficult games on that schedule. I mean, September 21st they go to Georgia, and then October 26th they go to Michigan. So 2 really tough games on that schedule. What are your thoughts on Notre Dame this year?
I think Notre Dame's season is going to come down to Georgia on September 21st. I think that is their season right there. I think you win, you got a great shot to run the table again and go undefeated. You lose, you still get games against Michigan. You still have USC after that. You got at Stanford. Virginia Tech at home. Virginia Tech could be pretty good, but that's their season, I really feel like. That could make or break them. They got 7 guys offensively coming back, 6 defense, Ian Book coming back. I think Notre Dame's going to be good again. The schedule's a little bit tougher than it was last year. They kind of pretty much ran through. Besides the Michigan game, they really didn't have too many problems. But I think Notre Dame's got a very, very good shot to get back to the college football playoff. And again, I don't, they got a couple of their leading tackles back. I think their top 2 tackles are back. So we'll find out a lot about Notre Dame in that Georgia game, week 3.
We absolutely will. So we're going to go on to the Big 12. Go down to the Big 12, and the thing about the Big 12 is they got two of their heavyweights, Texas and Oklahoma, are back, and they're ready to go. But this conference just isn't very deep. I just don't see a lot of depth there. Iowa State's picked for 3rd, and they lost to David Montgomery. I mean, TCU, Oklahoma State, Baylor, Tech, and then West Virginia. Do you really expect much out of those teams?
No, I don't. And it's pretty much going to be Oklahoma, Texas. Now to begin off, because I know I think Iowa State's my sleeper here. I love what Matt Campbell's been able to do at Iowa State because this team was with Kansas in the bottom of the barrel, and he's done a heck of a job getting Iowa State. They start the season ranked 21st in the country. So they've done a great job. They got their QB back, Prudy back, Brock Prudy back at QB.
How's their defense?
Their defense, they have 8 guys coming back defensive-wise. They got 8 offensive. So I think they're going to be very good. I think they'll be one of the top defenses of the Big 12. Again, that may not be a huge statement because the Big 12 is not known for their defense. But and they always at home have that huge upset win every year. Now it may not be a upset this year because they're ranked and all that, and they always sneak up on somebody. And I do believe maybe that Texas game at home to November 16th, that could definitely be a game where Iowa State knocks off Texas. They got Oklahoma a week before, but I think Iowa State to be good again. And Matt Campbell's really stepping up right now for this Iowa State team and putting them in the upper half, which I don't remember Iowa State really ever being out in the upper half of the Big 12.
Oh, absolutely. No, definitely not. So we look at Oklahoma. They lose Kyler Murray. They lose Hollywood Brown, but Jalen Hurts comes in as the transfer. They have an interesting game. They do go to UCLA on the 14th. Should win that game. Obviously, the big one's going to be on October 12th when they play Texas. This rivalry is back. Oklahoma, because Texas beat them last year during the regular season. Oklahoma was able to beat them for the Big 12 championship. But this rivalry is back. That's going to be another circle, just like Michigan, Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Circle that game on your calendar. Oklahoma and Texas. I mean, that's going to be a really good game. And then obviously they got Iowa State on the 9th and then Oklahoma State on the 30th. But that Texas game is going to be so huge for Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah. Well, and with the top two teams getting in, that one loss could hurt. They lose Texas. Probably won't. They'll probably still get in. You got CD Lamb coming back, who's one of their top wide receivers. They got 8 guys coming back defensively, and we know that defense was absolutely atrocious. I don't think it's going to be super, but it's got to be better. I think it will. You can't get any worse than you were last year defensively. It only can get better, you would hope. So I think their defense would be better because we saw that down Texas. They could not get a stop actually in the first time around when they played in Dow in the Cotton Bowl. We saw both those teams could not get a stop. It was Mark Stoops, their D coordinator, got fired after that game. Understandably after that game. So I think Oklahoma gonna win the Big 12. I think Texas is close, but I don't think they're there yet. I think Jalen Hurts gonna have a huge year for him. I'm excited to see Jalen Hurts run this offense, and I actually want to see Oklahoma, Alabama this year play. That would be fun to watch.
That would be interesting to see Jalen Hurts face his former team. We look at Texas. They got Sam Elner coming back, and they got a non-conference, which Oklahoma really doesn't have. Yes, they play UCLA, but that's not really huge because they're kind of rebuilding. Texas has this huge game where they host LSU on September 7th. That's college game day is going to be there. One of the biggest games of early in the college football season. Yeah,
I can't wait for this one. And I think for both these teams, we're going to find out because these are two teams that could be sitting there on the final day of the committee, sitting there maybe at the 5 and 6 spot. Could be, maybe deciding maybe that final spot depending on how things go. It's probably a long shot maybe. But I'm interested because both these teams, there's a lot of, there's some question marks. Is Texas actually back? How did Joe Burrow come back this year and do? So this is a huge game to see where both these teams are at early in the season. I can't wait for this one. I think maybe because I think I'm probably an early pick. I'm going to take Texas at home right now. That's my early pick. But yeah, you got Sam Ellinger back. You only got 3 guys defensively come back. They weren't bad defensively. They gave up some big ones against Oklahoma, West Virginia. I guess they struggled. Their D was okay last year. They played very well against Georgia in the Sugar Bowl last year. So the D's going to take definitely a step back, and that's where I'm a little bit concerned. But offensively, Sam Ellinger's back. I think offensively they have a big year.
Yeah, so outside of the 3 teams we talked about, is there any of these other 7 teams that could be like a sleeper in the Big 12 or not really?
TCU's got 7 offensive guys. They got a K-State train, Matt Dent, coming in to play wide receiver. Gary Patterson defenses are always usually the top since coming over in the Big 12. So maybe defensively wise, they could hang in with somebody. They got Texas at home. They go to Oklahoma late in the year, which helps. They go to Iowa State too. That could be a toss-up for 3rd place. Iowa State and TCU are my 3rd place kind of toss-up right there. So maybe TCU can surprise some people this year.
Yes, we'll definitely see about that. So we'll head out west and talk about the Pac-12. And first, we got to talk about Oregon. They got Justin Herbert's returning for his senior year. Obviously, huge game for Oregon to kick off the season as they play Auburn. They also got some tough. They also got to go to Stanford. They got to go to Washington. They also go to obviously USC is not as good, but they go to USC as well. So it's a really tough schedule for Oregon this year, and that's why even with Herbert coming back, I don't know if they're going to win the Pac-12 North.
Yeah, I have him. I think this is Oregon's year with Herbert. I think he came back for a reason. I know yesterday he came back because I guess his GPA is a 4.01 or something. So he wants to get his degree. He wants to finish that, which is great to see that. But they also got the number 1 overall recruit from, I think he's from Southern California, defensive end, who I think is going to be starting Kavion Therobecks, I think his name. Big 6'6", 240 D.
I'll be texting you during the opener talking about him. Yeah,
he's going to be a monster. I'm actually excited to see how well he can actually help this defense because, again, Oregon D for years has been their kryptonite. Can Mario Cristobal get this team to where Chip Kelly had it? I think this is their year as Washington's going to take a step back, losing Jake Browning. Washington State's going to Washington State losing
Luke Falk,
yeah. They got another grad transfer coming in. At USC, at Stanford, yeah, I think it'd be tough. But I think Oregon definitely has a great shot this year making the playoffs. I think they win the North. I'm actually very excited to see them play at Auburn in Jerry's World the opening week. That should be a fun one.
Yeah, it's a rematch of the national championship game 9 years ago, 2010 national championship game between Auburn and Oregon.
Yep, and that was a good one too.
Oh, a great one, yeah. So we got Washington, which Eason comes in, the Georgia transfer, as Browning leaves and Myles Gaskin leaves. And if you look at Washington's schedule, they got to go to Stanford. They do host Oregon. They do have to play Utah, the team in the South, and they also play Washington State in that last game of the season. What's your thoughts on Washington this year? They were picked for second in the North.
Yeah, North. I think they are going to take a step back. They got 7 guys come back offensively, but you mentioned it, Gaskin, your running back, and your quarterback, Jake Browning. They only have 2 guys coming back defensively, so their D's going to definitely take a hit this year. So I'm very interested in Jacob Eason because got a little bit of playing time in Georgia. Wasn't spectacular. That's why he lost a job to Jacob Fromm. So interested to see how he does, but Kyle Peterson's done Chris Peterson's done a great job watching to taking over, really put this team in the top class of the Pac-12. So we're interested to see what he does this year. But Washington still going to be good. I think they will finish second right now in the Pac-12. But it should be interesting. They do, they do get Oregon at home. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do win the Pac-12 North.
We look at Stanford, who lost Bryce Love. They do get KJ Costello back, but they do got to go to USC to start the year. They got Notre Dame to end the season. They play Oregon and Washington at home, which could help them in terms of winning the Pac-12 North. But to even be a college football playoff contender is going to be very hard, seeing the fact they have to play Notre Dame in that final game of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough as last year, as Bryce Love was kind of injured. Bryce Love, I thought, was going to have a huge chance of winning the Heisman. Showed last year, and it sounded like he was hurt at the end of the year. It sounded like he had an knee injury most of the year that was nagging. I'm interested to see, too, for Stanford. Their first 4 games are very tough. They got Northwestern, who 3 years ago knocked them off.
And don't forget, they play UCF at UCF, too.
Yeah, and at UCF.
Very tough non-conference schedule.
Yeah, they shot challenge them. You got USC on the road, too. They don't have any cupcakes on this schedule. KJ Costello does come back. He had 29 touchdowns last year. You lost JJ. I can't even say his last name. I can't say his last name. I can't. I think
the guy for the receiver for the Eagles, right?
Yeah,
the
he's on the Eagles.
Yeah,
it's like
Asiga Whiteside or something.
Yeah, something like that. But I think Stanford's always gonna be a top class of the Pac-12. I think that will be again. But with that schedule, it's going to be a tough schedule, and I would not be surprised if they finish something like 8-4, something like that.
Oh, yeah, really tough schedule for Stanford. We'll also talk about Washington State. We all know Mike Leach's teams are always competitive, even though they lose Luke Falk. What's your thoughts on them? They are a top 25 team to start the year.
Oh, yeah, and I think they're going to have another – I think they're going to have a good – I think, good year. I don't know if you heard. They're going to college football is doing like a Hard Knocks thing. Washington State got picked. I can't wait to see
Mike Leach. Mike Leach. Oh, man.
Mike.
So that's going to be on HBO?
Yeah, I think
this year?
Next year.
Oh, wow. Mike Leach is going to be so fun to watch.
Oh, I know. I can't wait. They got another grad transfer coming in, Gage Garber from Eastern Washington, 88 career touchdowns. And Eastern Washington is one of the top programs in the FCS. You got 7 offensive guys returning, 6 defense. Defense is always a problem. That air raid offense is always tough to prepare for because you're going to see 50, 60 passes. You will not see a running back. Interested to see they go to Houston week 3. Interested to see how he plays, how Garber plays there. Big test, but I think Washington State's definitely going to take a step back. It was fun to watch that team last year. Washington State's team that's struggled since pretty much the century. I think the last time they went to the Road Bowl was like 2001, something like that. They've kind of struggled
probably since Ryan Leaf was playing for them.
Yeah, I think he probably was the last one that led them to the Road Bowl, something like 99, something like that. But it should be interesting why Washington State again this year. I think they definitely do take a step back, but I think they'll hang around top 25. Mike Lee's done a great job with that program.
So we'll head down to the South, the Pac-12 South, and we'll talk about Utah. They're your sleeper team this year, and their schedule is very favorable. Even though they go to USC and Washington, they don't play Washington or Stanford. Very favorable schedule for Utah. You really like them this year.
I love them to get a dark horse, the 4 spot in the
and they're your pick to win the Pac-12. I'm guessing.
Oh
right?
Yeah, I think they could. Their defense is. I think it'd be very good again. They got 7 guys coming back on that side of the ball, 7 offensively. And I think they have one of the underrated running backs in Zach Moss in the country. I think he had 16 or 17 rush touchdowns last year. It's going to be very, very fun to watch. Defense was suffocating defense last year. I don't know if you watched the Pac-12 championship game last year. As we saw, there was no offense. Both those defenses took over. So I really think that they could run the table, go undefeated. They're starting 14th in the country. Their toughest games probably at Washington or at USC. Don't even, be alarmed that they struggle on next Thursday at BYU, being a huge rivalry game. BYU hasn't beat them in years. But I think they definitely run table. I think they are my Pac-12 champion. And I'm not pulling the string on them yet to make the final. I think they finished 5th or 6th in the playoff standings. But I think they go undefeated. I think they're in. I think they'll finish the 4th spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. And USC, they had a really down year last year after losing Sam Darnold. JT Daniels, the quarterback there. Is there any improvement from USC this year?
Well, offensive side of the ball, as we saw with the Cliff Kingsbury saga, was supposed to be the coordinator, goes to Arizona. Now they bring Graham Harnell, one of the top all-time leaders in passing yards in FBS history. He brings in the air raid offense. This should be very interesting to watch how JT Daniels does under this. And Clay Helton's facing a lot of heat this year. I think to keep his job, he's got to win at least 9 games. I don't even think 8-4 will cut it with the bowl game. I don't think that cuts it. I think they got to win 9 games. It's going to be interesting. They have Armor Ross St. Brown, who's going to be their top guy. Played pretty well last. He's got to be a guy that's got to play well, step up for him this year. He's going to be one of their top wide receivers. They got 6 offensive guys coming back, 5 defense on the side of the ball. I'm interested to see. But JT has got to take that step up. I think he will. I think it's going to be a little bit of struggle early with the new offense. Watch out for week 1. Fresno State at home with Stanford look ahead maybe that next week at home. Fresno's going to be good. I think they're one team that could get that group of 5 spot for the New Year's Six Bowl. USC better watch out for them. If they lose that game, it could be a very long year for Clay Helton.
It definitely can be. So, who outside of the teams we talked about, who's a sleeper in the Pac-12 outside of the teams we talked about?
I think it's going to be in the South because I think it's a little bit more open after Utah, and I think UCLA is going to take a nice step
with
forward.
Chip Kelly. You got it, because Chip Kelly's a really good coach.
Oh, yeah.
And especially college coach, yes.
Yeah, and they have 19 guys coming back, 9 on the offensive side ball, 10 on defensive side of the ball. Yes, they went 3-9 last year. They struggled, but Chip Kelly didn't have his guys that he needs to run that offense. As we saw, Wilton Spate is not that quarterback to run that spread option. That's it. That spread offense. He's not the guy to run that. So I think UCLA definitely takes a step forward. I'm interested, I'm very interested to see how they do, because they have a tough non-conference schedule. They go to Cincinnati to open up the season next Thursday, which Cincinnati beat them. Cincinnati's going to be very good this year. And then you also have San Diego State, who's always one of the top teams in the Mountain West. And you got Oklahoma at home. And then in Washington State and in Arizona. Tough 5 games. We're going to learn a lot about UCLA and how Chip Kelly has improved this team in the first 5 weeks of the schedule. And they could end up being like 2-3 or 3-2 right there. So if they can take, they go 3-2, 4-1, they could have a really nice year.
We'll head back out east and talk about the ACC. Is there any team in that conference that could compete with that could even come close to competing with Clemson? I know Syracuse is a top 25 team, but can anybody compete with Clemson? Probably not.
No, I think the best chance is going to be Syracuse week 3.
Why is Syracuse a top 25 team?
They have a lot of guys coming back. They got a lot of guys coming back on it. They got 6 offensive, 7D. Tommy DeVito comes in as the starting QB. Dino Babers has done a great job. They kind of run more of a air raid type offense. They knocked off Clemson 2 years ago when Kelly Bryant was hurt, I know, but they went to the Dome and they knocked him off. They should have had him last year. Syracuse choked that one away. Syracuse would be very, very good. I know a kid next year that just committed to him, Justin Barron he's from Rocky Hill. He's coming in as an athlete for him next year. This is going to be I think Syracuse is definitely going to finish second. I think Florida State, I don't like Willie Taggart as a coach. I'm just going to flat out say
you got
a losing record as a head coach and you're at Florida State. It's not great at Oregon, was not great at South Florida. He's not a great coach. I don't think they're going to be able to stay with Clemson. The only team, Syracuse.
They do have Cam Akers, though, who's pretty good.
They do. Their line's going to be a little bit better, but I don't like Willie Taggart.
They definitely miss Jimbo Fisher. That's safe to say.
And I don't know why they wanted to run him out of town so bad.
I know. A national championship coach, too, and he's turning Texas A&M around.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll talk about the American Conference, the AAC, and we know UCF has been dominant the last 2 years, undefeated 2 years in a row throughout the regular season with Mackenzie Milton, even though he's hurt and won't play this year. Undefeated 2 years in a row, then lost the Fiesta Bowl to LSU last year. So with Brandon Wimbush, do you think UCF will go? Because they do play Stanford this year, and they do go to Pitt, but they should win that game. But they do play Stanford this year. Do you think for the 3rd year in a row, they'll go undefeated?
I think this is the year they lose a regular season game. I think they only have 5 guys coming back on the defensive side of the ball. We saw their defense struggled last year. They have 8 coming back offensively, which is going to help. Brandon Wimbush coming in from Notre Dame, good quarterback. When he got his chance, he was okay, but I think he's going to thrive here at UCF. Stanford at home is going to be very tough. I think they'll pull out the Stanford game. I think they pull that one out close. My loss comes at Cincinnati on Friday night. Cincinnati to be very, very good. I love what Luke Falk's done there.
Luke Finkel.
Luke Finkel. I don't know why I said Fall. I was thinking the old Washington State quarterback there. The short week at Cincy, I think that's where they lose this game. I think that's their one loss. Defensively, Cincinnati is very, very good. They got 7 guys offensively come back, 7 defense come back. Desmond Riddler at quarterback. He's a tough QB to stop because he can run. He's a great runner. Then they also got Michael Warner coming back with 19 rushing touchdowns last year. I think that's where their loss comes. I think they do get out Pitt safely, but I think it's that Cincy game knocks them off, and I think that's the end of their run. But I think that's their one loss all year. I think that'll be it for them.
So I'm guessing that the other team, you would think if there was another team that could win the American Conference, you're probably going to say Cincinnati.
Yeah, Cincinnati.
Nobody from the West because of what their losses were last year. Memphis lost to Dontrell Henderson and Tony Pollard. Houston loses Ed Oliver. You'd probably say Cincinnati. Yeah,
I'm going with Cincinnati. They got tons of guys. They got 7. They got 14 coming back, 7-7. and that team wasn't even supposed to be that good last year, and they finished 9-3. And they surprised I was surprised they went out to UCLA and knocked them off on the opening weekend. And they played very, very well. They go to the Big House week too, so that should be very first time in I forget how long they're playing Ohio State. But I don't think they're gonna win that game. They may keep it competitive for a quarter or two, maybe. Former Ohio State coach, he'll be amped up to play that game. So maybe they keep it closer to for a quarter, but I think I think this is definitely the team in the American that can definitely run the table and win it. Maybe down in Houston with Dana Holgerson, as he left actually West Virginia to come here, wasn't fired, even though I think a little bit he was pushed out. But interested to see them. They always have a good team. I think they're going to blown out to Oklahoma, of course. But they got Washington State coming at home. That's going to be a nice test for them. Memphis, yeah, they lost Darrell Henderson and Tony Powell. That rushing attack was absolutely nasty last year. Brady White comes back, though, for Memphis, who had 26 touchdowns as well. So with all that rushing attack, he threw 26 touchdown passes. That offense was explosive. They should have beat UCF in the championship game. They had them beat, and they wore down late in that game. And then if you want a sleeper pick that, outside of these three teams, I think it's going to be the Green Wave of Tulane.
Yeah, they're picked for third in the AAC West.
Yeah, I really like Willie Fritz as a coach. Spread option. They go to Auburn week 2 of the season. Of course, I think they're going to lose there. But I'm interested in they got Houston at home. They do have Memphis. They do have Memphis on the road. Their East draw is very tough. I think they got to go to Temple. They have UCF at home too, so I think it's going to be tougher than the one it was. But don't be surprised maybe if they knock off a Houston or Memphis, or maybe even go to Temple, or give UCF a game. But I think Tulane's going to be a good team. Willie Ford's done a great job because that program was pretty bad down in Conference USA. It's been bad since really coming over here. It got to a bowl game last year, but I think Tulane's going to be a little bit better this year. I think they're going to be good this year.
So being in Connecticut, we can't not talk about UConn. And what's a realistic expectation for UConn this year? We know last year their defense was historically pathetic. We know, but David Pindell, who was actually a pretty good quarterback on a team that won one game, he's gone now. What's a realistic expectation for UConn this year? And a realistic, what does Randy Edsall have to do to keep his job this year?
Well, it's going to be very tough. It's going to be tough. I think the expectation, is 2-10.
Because look at the first two, they're winnable. Because Wagner's absolutely winnable, and then Illinois is winnable too. And then at the end of the year, they do play ECU at home as well. So they have some winnable games, especially at home. 3 really winnable home games. And they play at UMass, who they lost to at home last year. And they do play Navy too at a rough year last year. But still, realistically, you're saying probably because 2-10, because you have to factor in, they might be a little bit better because they can't be worse defensively because they had the worst defense in the history of college football last year, and they do lose their starting quarterback too. Mm-hmm. So they do get Kevin Mensah back though. Yeah,
that's nice. They do have this grad transfer coming in from either Kent State, Art Thompson. He's like 5'8", kid's explosive. It's very quick. I'm excited to see him and Mensah. Mensah's more of a power back. So Thompson's kind of gives you that little bit of a combo right there. Interested to see him. Also interested to see this new quarterback, this grad transfer from Florida Tech down at D2 school, Mike Betty, I think his name. I think it's his job right now. I think he's pretty much won this job as Marvin Washington transferred out. I think it's a great reason. He went to Independence Community College. But I think 2-10. I think Syracuse beat this team 60-17. I know Syracuse was good last year. Wagner's a small Northeast Conference school. They did not, I think they were 3-8 last year, I think they were. Illinois got 17 guys coming back. I think that one's going to be tough. Lovie Smith's got a couple of good transfers coming in from USC. He actually got like 3 former 5-stars from USC to come in. I think Illinois going to be a little bit better. UMass, I think, that's definitely another winnable game. I think their winnable game may come at East Carolina at home. New coach there, but 2 wins I think is gonna be really it. 10 guys coming back. Their only new starter is DJ Morgan, a kid coming over, DJ Morgan coming over from Notre Dame. That's their only guy that's new, and he's coming from Notre Dame. Only played a little bit, played 2 games last year, had a couple tackles, But also the thing to be positive, I think, too, is none of these starters on defense are going to be seniors. They're all sophomores and juniors still. So you still got next year, too. But the scary thing is if Randy Edsall can't turn this program around, which looks more and more likely, I don't know if there's anybody that can turn this program around.
I know. This program is kind of lost right now. They're not even gonna have a conference to play in after this season. Yeah, we won't really have a conference to play in. So what are we gonna say?
And trying to schedule as an independent
is hard.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, and then you got to even schedule tougher games because you don't have games in your conference with teams that are as good as you.
Yeah.
So does 2-10 does that cost Randy Edsall his job? Seeing what they were last year, I mean that is a little bit of improvement, but it's 2-10 cost him his job.
I'm very interested to see. I'm going back and forth on this. You got the new president comes in that just started a couple weeks ago. He wants to turn football around. He's here to build this football program. I think if there's improvement and enough improvement, if they can hang on and they can stay in some games, not every game, of course, but if they can hang in a couple of games and they get better, I think maybe he can keep his job for another season.
If they finish the way they did last year, he's gone. There's no way he comes back.
He'll be gone. I like the new D coordinator coming in from Alabama, defensive analyst. Look, he's under Nick Saban. Hopefully he's got a couple tricks up his sleeve. Hopefully he can help this defense out a little bit. It can't be as bad as it was last year, but again, it's been bad. I kind of I love that Randy Edsall came back. And I was hoping to be able to build a program up, and I know it's tougher because it's not the Big East anymore. He was able to steal those 3-star kids, and he could tell them to play right away because you're going to play in a power conference. You can't do that anymore because of the American, and it's tough to tell a kid in the independence because you don't know where, and especially now, you have no idea where you're playing the next 4 years, on road games. So it's going to be tough, but I think my heart says he will be back because I just don't know who would want to take the job. You're just digging yourself into a grave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because if you fire Edsall and you see how bad the program's been, because right when you got rid of Pascalone, you end up with Bob Diaco, and that was a complete disaster.
Bob Diaco rather play defense and offense. That had
exactly.
to be one. Look at Tim Boyle. He's playing with the Packers right now. He couldn't even start at UConn.
Exactly.
Where's the development there? But
exactly.
I think offense is still going to be okay. You got some guys. Get some guys back on the offensive ball. I like the new quarterback they're bringing in. I know he's got a 3-star Steven Projowski, who we got from state of Georgia, who's supposed to be pretty good as his backup. So I'm and they got an NC State transfer too. So I think, offensively wise, they could be pretty good. They got a bunch of wide receivers back. It's the defense. It was their problem last year. Their offense could score, but their defense couldn't stop anybody.
It was the worst in the history of college football.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up the show making our college football playoff picks and who we picked to win the national championship. And here, my 4 teams to make the college football playoff are Clemson, Alabama, obviously 1-2, going Michigan, winning the Big Ten as a 3 seed, and then I'm going to go Georgia getting in as an at-large. I think they go undefeated throughout the regular season, lose to Alabama in the SEC title game, but I think the committee puts them in as an at-large. And I think Clemson beats Georgia in the semi, Bama beats Michigan, and I think for the second year in a row and for the third time in 4 years, Clemson beats Alabama to win the national championship.
So, I'm pretty much kind of with you with the championship. I got Clemson as a 1 seed. Again, Justin Ross, Trevor Lawrence back, going to be great. 2 seed Alabama, they run the table again. My 3 seed right now, I actually have Utah right now. I think they run the table in the Pac-12, and I think that's why they get in because they start 14th. I think they do run the table, go undefeated. And then the 4 seed, I think Georgia gets in over Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma loses once to Texas, either or, but I think committee will take Georgia, as we've seen, kind of SEC bias usually over Oklahoma.
The thing is, though, if Oklahoma wins the Pac-12, the Big 12, the committee, 17 out of the 20 teams to make the college football playoff have been conference champions. And when there's been a debate, like in 2016 between Washington and Penn State, for at large between Ohio State and Penn State. Penn State was a 2-loss team. They even though they won their conference. Ohio State was a 1-loss team. And then you have that same debate in 2017 with Alabama and Ohio State. Ohio State won the Big Ten. Alabama was an at-large, but Alabama was a one-loss team. Ohio State was a two-loss team. But so say like Georgia's a one-loss team and Oklahoma's a one-loss team and Oklahoma wins the Big 12. But I can see your point there where they say that the SEC is stronger than the Big 12 and they take Georgia over Oklahoma.
And I think Georgia has one loss, and I think they knock off Notre Dame too, which would be a bigger win. I think because Texas, I think, may have one or two losses. So I think maybe because I think Notre Dame will finish 5th or 6th. So I think that's also, I think Notre Dame will probably finish 6th, Oklahoma 5th. So I think they do just take Georgia over. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised either or those teams get in. And then I got Alabama, Clemson. I got Clemson win the whole thing. I hate to be like everybody else, but Clemson, I think both these two teams are just in a different class.
Yeah, right, I think there's 3 teams in a different class: Georgia, Clemson, and Alabama. And the reason for that is they have 3 of the top 4 quarterbacks in the country. They have top talent and 3 of the top 4 quarterbacks in the country, and that's why those 3 teams are in a different class.
Yeah, and I think that's why all 3 are. That's why I think both of us have those 3 teams in, and of course Alabama, Clemson, like everybody else. But quarterback play does win you national team. Quarterback play does it. We've seen it in a couple of years.
Exactly, and especially with the new rules in football, quarterback play is more and more important than it ever has been.
Yep.
So that's going to wrap it up for our college football preview. For my co-host Justin Donofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We'll be dropping this video tonight at 5 o'clock, so we hope everyone's watching this college football preview. And I'll be back tomorrow with Kyle Galuli for our regular show, and we'll be doing our NFL preseason preview. So we hope you'll be listening tomorrow as well. Have a great day, everybody, and hope you're listening tomorrow.